There is a giant thing that happened this week, and it is OpenAI, the company that makes ChatGPT, had what they call their developer day, and they actually came out with some pretty big stuff.
I was getting texts from friends of mine that are developers. They were doing the clickbaity stuff of like, the game just got changed. Let's start with something that seems simple. GPT-4 now has a turbo model, which is going to deliver answers so much faster. Oh, and by the way, it's going to be half as expensive because this model is so much faster and cheaper.
It is a big deal when you think about, like, if you're interacting with it. Like, I know with GPT-4, it used to be kind of annoying where you type a question and it would just hang for a bit and then it would think. If that comes fast and furious, that's amazing. And I think for developers, if you're somebody that's interacting with your iPhone app, you can't wait there for an answer. It's going to get frustrating. You're going to just chuck your phone and be like, I don't want to deal with this. So you do have to have that instant reaction. And I think, again, faster and cheaper is the way that technology has gone forever. And it seems like AI is kind of pushing through that same line.
To give the numbers to those who want them, 3x cheaper, 3 times cheaper for input tokens. So when you put something into GPT-4 Turbo, costs you 3 times less. And the context window, meaning the amount of data, tokens, that it can keep in its memory, let's say, while you're having a conversation, has just exploded. A 128K context window. So what does that mean? That means if you have, let's say, 300 pages of a PDF or a book or something that you want it to keep in its memory, you can now feed it directly into this new model, and it will keep it in context as you have a conversation.
That token thing is a giant thing because people don't understand up until this point. It's been kind of choked at a certain level. And Anthropic was the whole idea. Anthropic was this model that could allow you to put more things in. What I think is going to be interesting about this, and we'll get to this with GPTs in a second too, is that OpenAI is starting to really maybe create a true moat, right? Like they're really creating their moat, in my mind. When I say a moat in technology, we've talked about this before, but what a moat means in technology is that you create technology so that other people can't copy you and do the same thing. What OpenAI's moat is starting to feel like is the top of the funnel, right? Being the kind of person there first. And if they can be there first and they get people used to using that, then they're always going to be one step ahead of the next guy. So let's move on to talk about what I believe is kind of the biggest thing. And this is OpenAI introduced the idea of what they're calling GPTs. And GPTs, much like what we saw with Character Eye at the beginning of the show, are individualized chatbots that can be created by anybody. And this is the thing that is kind of the game changer, hosted by OpenAI, but essentially can allow the creator themselves to make money off of them. Now, we don't know what that means exactly. We don't know how the revenue share is going to work, but OpenAI does have a lot of people paying now as paying users. So GPTs, and what they're calling them, are each individual asset of these chatbots, right? So an example
let's just say that they're apps, right? Just for the broad strokes, each GPT is now an app that runs on the GPT operating system, the OpenAI OS.
The idea is that you at home or anybody else, any developer, can create a specific use case for one of these GPTs, meaning that on stage, Sam Altman created a GPT that was about, I think, a software developer, a senior software developer who was there to give advice to younger software developers, right? Or a startup founder.
You might not be the foremost expert in, let's say, knitting, but there is something that you know about it that someone else doesn't because of your life experience with it. And so the idea is that if you want to create the ultimate knitting chat bot, you can go in with natural language, say, here's what I want to make. I want to make something that's going to help novice knitters get up to speed using my knowledge, and I'm going to drag in everything that I've ever written about knitting and my favorite bookmarks, etc. This could apply to anything, to playing an instrument, to your favorite vegan recipes, to your strategy for leveling up in a mobile game faster. Whatever it is that you're passionate about, that you're knowledgeable about, you can leverage that now and make a chatbot for everybody else to use. And the promise, and again, the devil will be in the details on this one, but the promise is that if people find value in that and use it, OpenAI is going to share a piece of the pie with you. Some red flags. We don't know what that looks like just yet. They made it very clear that they're not going to train on your data if you use their API. I didn't see if they said that they wouldn't train on your data if you created a custom chatbot. And so I get an ounce of concern when it's basically saying, hey, everybody out there, come to our platform, create a unique bot with your individual knowledge, or scrape the web for us and put together the ultimate resource on professional wrestling, because you've now trained our AI to be better and more knowledgeable about that thing. And as it starts to get more popular, they kink the hose, or they wall the
Yeah.
garden and they say, we're just
Interesting.
going to take these millions of chatbots, which you have all created for us, and swallow them into our own thing. And we've seen, Apple do that with its own apps. But in the near term, they're going to be incentivized to making a handful of users very, very wealthy off of properly compensating them for their bots.
We have no idea what the revenue sharing looks like. Like, it's clear at this point, I don't think OpenAI is making, I mean, they're making money in that they're charging people, but I think that their costs way outweigh their income. This is like a world where, like, who knows what the financials of it look like. But I think you're right. Like, there's a lot of things to be really cautious about here. Knowing what we know about AI, like, it doesn't seem like it's hard to imagine that the idea of being a software engineer has just completely changed. And, and Andre Karpathy, one of the smartest software engineer minds in the world, a famous software engineer himself, has said that, like, natural language is the new programming language. And I think that's the thing to take away from you at home. If you are a normal human or you're somebody that is passionate about technology, but maybe weren't trained as a developer, this is your time, right? Because now you can do things that weren't possible before because of this tool that exists.
Those are some of the big announcements that came out of OpenAI's Developer Day. If you don't follow us on TikTok or on YouTube, please do. AI for Humans Show. We constantly are churning out content on those platforms. So go check us out over there, and we'll keep you up to date in between podcast release on the biggest stuff.